Yeah. Sorry?
He's already set up.
On. No. Sorry, I just got to set all this up. But what's...
Okay, let me know. No, I've got a motion on.
Did you send it to Nancy?
Nancy, yeah.
Okay.
It's about the commuter parking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we do have quorum.
Sorry?
We do have.
Yep, I'm just getting my...
If you could talk to Christian in detail about that, thank you.
Dorothy makes me... He's like, did you see my motion? I sent it to your guy last night. I'm like... Did you send it to planning? Yeah.
Good day, Nico.
All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. If I could have everybody in their chairs. Well, not everybody, just my colleagues. Everybody else can wander around if you want. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Councillor Paul Ainsley. I'm the chair of the Scarborough Community Council. We do have quorum this morning, so I'm calling meeting number 24 to order. Welcome, everybody. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person here at the Scarborough Civic Center in the council chamber. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council live. For the land acknowledgement, I'd like to say on behalf of my colleagues and our City of Toronto staff that although we may be meeting in different locations today, Scarborough Community Council would like to acknowledge the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also would like to acknowledge Toronto is covered by Treaty Number 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. For people that are registered to speak, we do have 3 speakers on item number 1. If you're registered to speak at today's meeting, if you could please listen for me to call your name. I'll call the speakers in the order in which they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Scarborough Community Council page on the city's website at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box at the top for today's meeting. To my colleagues, just a reminder, the city clerk has provided all of our agenda materials on the same city website at toronto.ca/council and on the clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if you need help with your devices. I also want to remind everybody to please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at scc@toronto.ca to help with motions, and here beside me. At this point, I'm going to ask if there's any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Sorry, I lost quorum.
Traffic tech issues.
Sorry, Parthy, I need you in your seat. Yep, so are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, can I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting on June 5th, 2025? Moved by Councillor Thompson, all in favor? Carried. I'm going to go through today's agenda. Nancy? Okay, I'm going to go through the agenda. SC 24.1, 4610, Finch Avenue East Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application. This is a decision report for final approval in Ward 23, Councillor Myers' ward. We have 3 deputants, so I'm going to hold that for speakers. SC 24.2, our Scarborough Centre Secondary Plan Study Status Report. You like to hold it, Councillor Canova and Councillor Thompson? Did you want a presentation? Okay, all right. Okay. On the next one, okay. All right, and then SC 24.3, Kennedy Station, Public Realm Master Plan, Final Report. I'm sorry, Councillor Thompson, you like a presentation on it? Okay. You want a presentation on number 2? Okay. Are staff available for presentations on both of those? Yep. Okay. Thanks, Christian. SC 24.4, renaming of Rosebank Park in memory of Councillor Cynthia Lai, Ward 23, Councillor Myers. I'm going to hold this down. SC 24.5, Kennedy Road and Brigstock Road Traffic Control Signal in Ward 21. Councillor Thompson.
I'd like to move that with great thanks to transportation staff on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson's moving the recommendations. And number 5, all in favor, that carries. SC 24.6, Sheppard Avenue East and Brownspring Road Traffic Control Signals in Ward 23 is Councillor Myers. I'm going to hold that for Councillor Myers. SC 24.7, Sheppard Avenue East and Rainbow Ridge Avenue Traffic Control Signals in Ward 25. We don't have a councillor in Ward 25, so I'm going to move the recommendations on behalf of the residents. All in favor? That carries. SC 24.8, Mid-Block Pedestrian Traffic Control, Lawrence Avenue East at a point 285 meters west of Kingston Road. And that's in Ward 25 in my ward. All in favor of the recommendations? Sorry, that carries. SC 24.9, Palacky Street Traffic Calming Speed Humps. That's in Ward 24 in my ward. And I'm just going to move an amendment, Nancy, that Scarborough Council remove the word not, authorize the installation of speed bumps on Palacky Street between Confederation Drive and Brand Street. All in favor? That carries. SC 24.10, Sancrest Drive Traffic Calming Speed Humps in Ward 21. Councillor Thompson.
I'll move the staff recommendation with great thanks. Mr.
Councillor
Chair.
Thompson's moving the staff recommendations. And number 10, all in favor? That carries. SC 24.11, Kingston Road between Midland Avenue and Brimley Road / Brimley Road South, speed limit review in Ward 20. Councillor Canavelle. Councillor Canavelle is moving the staff recommendations. And number 11, all in favor? That carries. SC 24.12, Brimwood Boulevard parking amendments in Ward 23. Councillor Myers, I'm going to hold that item for him. And I believe that's the end of the vetting of today's agenda. So Councillor Myers is stuck in traffic, so I'm going to skip number 1 for now and go to number 2. Is that okay with?
That's fine.
Okay. So our next item is SC 24.2, our Scarborough Center Secondary Plan Study Status Report in Wards 21 and 24. And Councillor Canavelle has asked for a presentation.
Where do you plug it?
Sorry, and the IT staff.
Okay. Sorry?
Can't present for a minute.
Oh, you can. Oh, okay.
Um,
I have a
present in
stick, or I can.
So I'm able to share through WebEx.
Oh. Okay. Do I still stand here and? Okay. Yeah, I got it. Oh, I can't share yet. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of council. Okay. I thought I did. It does, my thing is shut off, so I'm not sure what the,
Oh.
oh, right. Okay, well. Hello? Is that better? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Technology is your friend sometimes. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of council. My name is Kelly Dines. I am a senior planner in development review, and I have been working along with a number of other colleagues on the Scarborough Centre secondary plan and an update to it. So I have prepared a brief presentation to support the status report. I thought first I would start with an outline of the planning framework. Scarborough Centre, as most of you know, is one of 4 centres outside the downtown core. The areas are highlighted in red on the map on the left-hand side, and Scarborough Centre is outlined in the black circle. Centres tend to be transit-oriented areas where we expect significant growth to occur. Scarborough Centre is a protected major transit station area. On the right-hand side, it's the outline of Scarborough Centre boundary is shown, and you can see that it's primarily designated mixed-use areas in order to allow for this anticipated growth. Scarborough Centre is very fortunate. It includes a number of natural landmark features such as Frank Faubert woodlots, East Highland Creek, and it also includes some active employment areas to the east and west, shown in purple, and neighborhoods to the south in yellow. We are updating the 2005 secondary plan primarily because it is 20 years old, as well as due to the significant investment in transit combined with a number of development applications over the last few years. We want to create a strong vision and planning framework specific to Scarborough Centre in order to guide future growth and encourage city building that supports this investment in transit. Updated policies will create a sustainable and resilient complete community where we want people to live, work, shop, and play, where there's a mix of uses and built form that contribute to Scarborough Centre's unique identity, fostering a sense of place through a vibrant public realm and a network of parks and open spaces, as well as to support continued employment investment. This slide demonstrates the timeline for the study. The consultant portion of the study was completed in 2023, and since then, planning staff have been using the consultant's work, as well as feedback from a number of stakeholder engagement components and development applications to inform draft secondary plan policies. We are now sharing these policies in order to gather additional feedback to inform a final report, an official plan amendment with an updated secondary plan accompanied by urban design guidelines that will be considered in the fall of this year. The status report before you today provides an update on the stakeholder engagement and outlines some issues that we are actively reviewing. The Scarborough Subway Extension is an expansion from Kennedy Station with 3 new subway stops at Lawrence Avenue East, Scarborough Centre, and Sheppard Avenue, and it's expected to open in 2031. The Scarborough Centre Station will include a subway station with a main entrance on McCowan Road, a regional bus terminal central to the site that will provide bus bays for TTC, the GO, and Durham Region Transit. Transit-oriented development is expected to occur on top of the transit station with 4 towers. While unfunded, Scarborough Centre will also be served by the Durham-Scarborough Bus Rapid Transit line along Ellesmere Road that will link Scarborough Centre to Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, and Oshawa. There are 19 active development applications in Scarborough Centre at various stages of approval right now, demonstrating that Scarborough Centre is undergoing significant intensification, largely due to, as I mentioned, the investment in the Scarborough Subway Extension. These 19 applications alone will result in about 4.5-fold increase in both population and dwelling units. So the Scarborough Centre secondary plan we are developing a strong vision and some guiding principles which will guide development over the coming years, the next 30 to 50. The draft secondary plan policies support this clear vision and are directed by the following guiding principles: creating distinct districts with varied built form, a vibrant and exciting place where people want to live, work, play, shop, a complete community with a diverse mix of activities, quality parks and open spaces, a connected community, and one that's sustainable and resilient, inclusive, and prosperous. One of the big moves is to organize Scarborough Centre around streets called green loops. These are character-defining streets. There's one central green loop that you can see in the middle with the dotted green circles, and then there are two periphery green loops. Green loops are enhanced civic streets that will emphasize tree planting, cycling, walking within Scarborough Centre. They also importantly serve to organize parkland and enhance connections to natural areas such as East Highland Creek, West Highland Creek, and Frank Faubert Woodlot. Other big moves include creating new communities within Scarborough Centre with a fine-grained network of streets, blocks, parks, with good access to transit, employment, schools, libraries, in order to make them complete communities. Scarborough Centre is very large. It's 180 hectares, making character and placemaking really, really important guiding principles. 6 districts are emerging that will help define this character. We have the Civic District in blue, which is where we currently are, and it's defined by institutional buildings like the Scarborough Civic Centre, the Federal Building, the Scarborough Centre Library, and the plan is to encourage additional uses. The enhancement of Albert Campbell Square is prioritized as the main event gathering space in Scarborough Centre. The purple commercial district is defined by the vibrancy of the retail activity within and around the Scarborough Town Centre. Additional mixed-use neighborhoods are anticipated with retail surrounding the mall as their surface parking lots redevelop. McCowan District, where the transit station will be, is orange, and it's defined by development intensification surrounding the transit station, creating a transit-oriented downtown for Scarborough Centre. Residential and office uses are encouraged in this area, and walkability to and from the transit station is prioritized. Brimley District in the green, East Highland Creek in the red, and the North District in yellow will primarily be our residential neighborhoods, with Heights responding to their local context and with Parkland serving as focal points to serve these residential communities. One of the items that we've worked on through the course of this study is how can we improve connectivity to, from, and within Scarborough Centre. And you'll see with the street network plan here, approximately 10 kilometers of new streets are planned for Scarborough Centre, creating a much finer grained network of streets and improving movement through Scarborough Centre. Streets are to be designed with wide sidewalks, cycle tracks, tree planting, and regularized intersections promoting both pedestrian and cycling safety. This cycling map demonstrates that we are envisioning probably the most comprehensive cycling network for a centre outside of downtown Toronto, with roughly 15 kilometres of new cycling infrastructure proposed. All major arterial streets such as Brimley, McCowan, Bellamy, Ellesmere, and Progress are to have separated cycling tracks designed within the boulevard to encourage cycling safety. A streetscape detail specific to Scarborough Centre is shown in the middle of this graphic, and it's been developed to be implemented on major streets and includes a tree planting strip along the road curb edge, a separated cycle track, delineated visual paver buffer, a very wide sidewalk, and a second row of tree planting in order to create a beautiful walking and cycle-focused streetscape on both sides of the vehicular lanes. This image is Borough Drive, one of the central green loop streets that I showed earlier. And certain streets, like this one, are going to be designed with cycling, walking, and enhanced streetscape design that will be prioritized over vehicular movement. In this graphic, you'll see that the principal pedestrian and cycling promenade in Scarborough Centre will have a beautiful streetscape to encourage residents to walk, bike to local amenities such as the town centre, the transit station, or the library. Borough Drive is our game maker street in Scarborough Center, and it's going to have an asymmetrical design that expands one boulevard wider than the other for a bi-directional bike lane, a double row of tree planting, and a wide pedestrian promenade. New parks are generally organized along the green loop streets or along natural areas such as East Highland Creek or Frank Faubert woodlots. Providing parkland along the green loop streets such as Burrow Drive will provide strong landscape characters to these streets, encouraging pedestrian vibrancy. Expanding parkland along existing natural areas like East Highland Creek is intentional and will improve access to these natural areas. Currently, there are 10 acres of existing parkland within Scarborough Center and an additional 17 acres of future parkland secured through recent development application approvals are approved but not yet built. Proposed building heights in Scarborough Center. Through analysis of proposed and approved development applications, clear height intensification areas were emerging. One at the future transit station, another at Progress Brimley intersection, and one along Highway 401. The vision is to define these 3 planned points of intensification where we anticipate the greatest height permissions in order to create a distinctive skyline for Scarborough Center. The tallest and most intensive area will be around the Scarborough Center Transit Station Height Peak area, followed by Progress Brimley intersection Height Peak area, and then the 401 Height Peak area. Building heights are supposed to transition down between the height peaks in order to define the height peak areas and, importantly, to limit impact on important streets and parks such as Burrow Drive and East Highland Creek. Building heights within the height peak areas will range between 45 and 55 stories, and outside of the height peak areas, building heights will range from 8 to 44 stories. Another important objective of the secondary plan is to ensure that built form shadow policies protect sunlight access on existing parks and open spaces within Scarborough Center, such as Albert Campbell Square, the Hand of God Park, East Highland Creek, and Frank Faubert Woodlot. Policies have been drafted in order to ensure a minimum of 5 to 6 consecutive hours of sunlight from 9:18 a.m. to 6:18 a.m. between the spring and fall equinox will be protected on Albert Campbell Square, other existing parks, and natural areas. Minimum sunlight requirements for new parks outside of Scarborough Center Transit Station Height Peak area will also be protected with greater sunlight requirements for large parks adjacent to natural areas. The housing policies for Scarborough Center reflect a desire for a complete and inclusive community with a range of housing options in terms of tenure, size, and affordability that meet a full spectrum of households. Affordable housing units are encouraged in all new developments. Developments with more than 80 units will be required to provide a minimum 15% two-bedroom units and a minimum 10% three-bedroom units. The chart in the middle of this slide demonstrates that Scarborough Center is already leading the way with approximately 1,250 new affordable units and 4,756 market rental units in the pipeline. Throughout the course of the study, we identified key CS&F priorities, which include 19 new nonprofit daycare facilities, 2 elementary public schools. Over 11 community organizations have already indicated that they're seeking community space, and 1 new community recreation center. So the last slide here is an interesting one. The aerial on the left is Scarborough Center today. Most of the development you can see is around the 401 or the Scarborough Civic Center, and there are many large surface parking lots. A center in transition. With the investment in transit infrastructure and time, the plan on the right demonstrates how Scarborough Center may evolve and look over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Thank you. Sit down.
All right, thank you, Kelly. That's amazing. Questions of staff? Councillor Candavel? Kelly, don't run away yet. Okay. Councillor Candavel?
Thank you, first of all, for the presentation. Highly informative and easy to digest, and I would imagine the whole process. It was fraught with so many perspectives. Of course, you've got developers, you've got your own planning expertise, community, et cetera. So appreciate this update. The first question, very quickly, can that be uploaded to the internet? Because I don't think it's part of the agenda documents.
Yes, we can upload that presentation. There's a very similar presentation that is online on the study website
Okay.
that was presented at the April open houses.
Okay.
But I'm happy to have this one shared as well.
Excellent, thank you. The first question I have is to do, I think you've highlighted really well the spaces for green space, parks, streetscape, et cetera. What is the approach to economic development and jobs or employment opportunities as part of this terrific intensification?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have some draft economic development policies that are available to read within the draft secondary plan online. Those policies are generally encouragement policies so that as employment may leave with a redevelopment site, we want to encourage that amount of office space or employment, non-residential space to be replaced.
Okay, so it's termed, in other secondary plans, have we gone beyond encourage and institute or mandate employment minimums?
Through the chair, in the Young Eglinton and downtown Teal Core secondary plans, there was a requirement. Those were modified by the minister to soften them a little bit. There are land use restrictions in the financial district downtown, in the downtown secondary plan, about prohibiting residential uses through the office needs studies and other initiatives with a housing lens being placed on it. Those policies are being examined again.
Gotcha. Thank you. And with this secondary plan, is it, and pardon my ignorance, is it just Oxford? I know they're a big landowner. How many players are we dealing with? Significant players?
There are a number of significant landowners in Scarborough Centre, primarily because the lands are quite large. Oxford is the largest landowner in the centre, but we do have a number of other ones on the east side of the centre. We have a development application at 670 to 690 Fieldgate Urban. We have one just south of there, 675.
How many significant players would you say? Like more than 10, 5?
Probably about 5.
Okay, gotcha. The decision or how would you characterize their approach on preserving, addressing the employment losses as a result of redevelopment?
Through you, Chair, that has been a challenge as we've worked through the secondary plan. We've been working closely with our friends in economic development as well as in the industry surrounding here. With recent legislation, we run into difficulty to mandate employment replacements. So what we are doing is working to ensure that whenever a development application comes in, we have policies that indicate we would like to strongly encourage you to provide non-residential uses.
Right. Were these lands always mixed use or were they employment?
These lands were primarily all mixed use. The only conversion in the last 10 years was for 675 Progress, but otherwise all mixed use.
Gotcha. And in timelines, I know, the last slide showed kind of 30 years out. Is that, do we have any definitive projects that we can see in the next 5 or 10 years, or is that again up to them?
Through you, Chair, Mr. Chair, yes, we do. We just issued final statement of approval for 25 Borough Drive, which is part of the Oxford lands, and it fronts on Brimley Road. There are shovels in the ground at 1680 Brimley. We have a number of other active development applications that are nearing final zoning approvals, but those are the two that with shovels in the ground.
But nothing more than 10 is in the next 5 years?
It's really difficult to say with the economy. I
Okay.
mean, we have several on the west side, as I said, 25 Borough Drive, 1680. We have
Gotcha.
5 Corporate Drive.
What I'm trying to
Last
get at
question,
is like,
Councillor?
it's unlikely we're going to see this out. This is a longer term vision, right? Because I think that's kind of one of the concerns we've heard from. Exactly, yeah. I'll let the next speaker go. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson? Okay. Councillor Mantis? Nope, okay. Speakers? You had 5 minutes. You want a second round? Okay, well, is there a will for a second round of questions? Yep, okay. Councillor Candavel?
Yeah, no, I'd imagine this is a big secondary plan. I think having questions are important. Can you, with the green loops, is that existing green space? I thought that was a really exciting part of the presentation. Or will that be the creation of new green spaces for the public?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that will be the creation of new green space within the center.
And are we essentially looking at kind of like very narrow parks or grass, trees, play structures? What does that look like?
It will evolve on a development by development basis, but the idea is to ensure we have a streetscape that has tree planting on both sides. And as development comes in, the goal is to locate future public parks as part of those redevelopment applications immediately adjacent to these green loop streets, so that as you walk along the Borough Drive loop or the Bushby loop, and you pass a variety of different development sites, that you are walking on a nicely landscaped street with cycling, with tree planting, and with park space.
Roughly how wide are they? Because I know they're kind of linear and narrow. To give a sense of perspective, how wide are they? 500 meters, a kilometer?
Well, the streets that they will occur on are generally 27 meters wide.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Coming back to the large open parking lots, not as busy as they were before. However, there are some low-rise commercial spaces like the Best Buy, right? Are those being proposed? Are those low-rise that are commercial spaces that are not part of the mall? Are those spaces being redeveloped?
Through you, Mr. Chair, those spaces were part of the Oxford Master Plan, and so we recently mediated a settlement with Oxford that is available that sets out how those lands will redevelop over, again, 20, 30, 40 years. And those sites are anticipated to redevelop in a variety of ways. I don't have the map in front of me, but yes, Best Buy is one of the ones that will likely go. But we have secured through that process 5 large parks over time on the Oxford lands alone.
Okay, that's good to know. And with the existing mall, the Scarborough Town Center, have they, I'm assuming Oxford's the only owner, have they proposed any structural changes to the mall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Oxford has indicated time and time again that that mall is not going anywhere. So their master plan and the policies that were created improve connections to and from the mall. They develop new communities in the surface parking lots around the mall. We also included language that should, if when possibly the mall redevelops in the future, there will be another planning process to ensure that that area is redeveloped properly. But currently there are no active development applications to make any external changes to the mall.
Etobicoke Center, did they go through or currently going through a secondary plan as well?
Through the chair, the Etobicoke Center secondary plan has been in place since the late 2000s with accompanying zoning. There are components within the secondary plan through the 6 points reconfiguration that have been revisited, but I don't believe there's any broad-based review
Similar
of
to
the secondary
this.
plan right now, similar to this.
Okay, gotcha.
North York Center is undergoing a secondary plan review right now.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. And I was, I would imagine there would have been justification for a library given the population, the number of towers. Both Bendale and Cedarbrae are south of Lawrence. I wouldn't call that accessible, certainly if we're looking to encourage walking. So I'm trying to understand why TPL wouldn't have acknowledged the need for library space.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Scarborough Centre Library was built not too long ago. It can't be expanded. However, the library has indicated that their priorities lie in improvements and expansions to Cedarbrae and Bendale, and they have not identified the need for another library within Scarborough Centre presently.
And lastly, coming back to the first question on the employment opportunities, akin to the reference to the North York, what policies were relied on to ensure or mandate employment numbers, whether it's number of jobs or GFA?
With respect to the North York Centre plan? With respect to North York Centre?
Or the one that you had referenced earlier. Yeah.
So North York Centre, Yonge and Eglinton, and TO Core all have various policies of their time to mandate non-residential uses. North York Centre secondary plan had 100% office requirements, sites without residential permissions. Those sites were tested and were not able to be defended at the Ontario Municipal Board, LPAT, OLT. So they have become mixed-use sites with some non-residential, but primarily residential uses. When the TO Core secondary plan and Yonge Eglinton secondary plan were sent to the minister for approval, the minister softened some of the language around employment requirements. What we're seeing in Scarborough Centre is an unfortunate decline in office employment since pre-pandemic levels, which is pretty general for inner suburban development. What is an interesting opportunity for Scarborough Centre, and what we make sure to secure, is while residential intensification is happening in the centre, appropriate land use compatibility tests are done so that the employment lands, particularly west of Brimley, are not impacted. So this formed a key part of the Oxford settlement, as well as will come forward with strong compatibility and mitigation policies so that the employment uses west of the centre, which are very strong, very vibrant, and core to the Scarborough employment strategy, are protected.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Thompson, do you have questions?
Yeah, second
Okay,
round.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to staff, Ms. Dines particularly, thank you so much for your work so far. Can you help us to have a sense of understanding with respect to how your team dealt with, I guess, one of our largest landowners and some of the challenges and concerns that they had with respect to the consultant work, and what we did to accommodate to ensure that those jobs are protected in the community? Specifically Atlantic and Mondelez, I guess, to that extent.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We have been consulting with what we consider the largest employer in Scarborough Centre, Atlantic Packaging, over the entire 5 years of this study. On and off, we've had multiple meetings with Atlantic Packaging. Recently, we met with them and their team and Councillor Thompson, and we listened to the challenges that they face and the pressures of ensuring that their employment uses remain viable and remain successful when they are immediately adjacent to a center. It's a bit of a push-pull, and it's challenging. And so we reviewed a number of different options, along with the existing compatibility policies in the OP, as well as additional draft policies that we're including in the secondary plan. And we had a very frank conversation with Atlantic Packaging about what can we do to ensure that you remain viable. Currently, their lands, a portion of them front on Brimley Road, but those lands are designated mixed use. The rear portion, which is the largest portion of their site, are outside the boundary of Scarborough Centre and are designated employment areas. And so we are continuing to investigate the potential of a modification to the Scarborough Centre boundary so that we can help Atlantic Packaging achieve their goals of maintaining compatibility and maintaining viability by changing the designation of their mixed-use portion, which is vacant, to employment uses, therefore augmenting employment uses within Scarborough, keeping Atlantic Packaging whole, getting rid of that dual designation, and ensuring that all employment policies, both within the OP as well as in the secondary plan, can apply holistically to the entirety of their lands. The next step would be to meet with another major employer in Scarborough Centre, which is Mondelez. I'm in the process of coordinating a meeting with them to talk about how they feel about their role in Scarborough Centre. We have not received any feedback from them through this process. They did participate in the Oxford mediation, but we're happy with the policies created in that settlement.
And just to be clear, with respect to the report that's actually in front of us, it's a status update with respect to what has transpired to this point, and you're coming back with a final report in the fall, is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct, Councillor Thompson. The goal of the status report was to provide Scarborough Community Council with an opportunity to understand where we are to date, to have an opportunity to take a look at the draft policies. Staff have continued to take the feedback from the April open house consultations and fine-tune the policies. And so the draft that is before you today will be significantly streamlined to make it easier to read. And we welcome any additional input up until that point.
And so, two-part questions. You've had a significant number of folks come through the open house, both in terms of open house for land developers or landowners, as well as for the general public. I guess the second part of that component of the questions is that you and team have looked at and surveyed all the characteristics, criteria, and so on in terms of coming up with a comprehensive plan for our downtown, our Scarborough Centre, which is going to be the core part of downtown Scarborough. Would that be correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. As I said, we've been studying this update to Scarborough Centre's secondary plan for a while now. We recognize that it's dated, it needs an update, and we're kind of excited because there's a lot of development happening within Scarborough Centre. We have a brand new subway coming to Scarborough Centre, and the amount of growth and potential is tremendous. And I think that this study presents an opportunity for us to shape and guide how Scarborough Centre develops over the coming years and to ensure that it's a complete community, that it's a green community, that it has the appropriate amount of infrastructure to support that development. And we anticipate that the policies within the updated secondary plan combined with urban design guidelines will only serve to help developers when they come in with their applications.
Those are all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other questions on this item? Seeing none. Sorry, Kelly, I just wanted to ask, the amount of development that's taking place in this area, what do you think is driving it? Is it the new Scarborough subway extension, the BRT, the available land?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think it is perhaps all of those items. I think primarily there's a lot of vacant land in Scarborough Centre. I think we have seen that a lot of that vacant land are 1 to 2 story industrial buildings where perhaps their operations are moving elsewhere or being combined with larger facilities outside of Scarborough just due to the costs. And those lands present a great opportunity for redevelopment, coupled with the fact that we're getting, millions of dollar subway coming to Scarborough Centre that's going to really facilitate movement to and from Scarborough Centre. I'm not sure of the impact of the Durham-Scarborough BRT. It continues to remain unfunded, but I think the primary driver is the investment in transit and the fact that we have a lot of undeveloped land here, so it's offers a lot of opportunity.
And if I may add to that, Mr. Chair, potentially signals that people are seeking to stay in Scarborough as they age out of their potential childhood homes and be close to family, be close to employment in sort of non-office, but still good, solid paying jobs that exist in Scarborough.
Okay, and then in terms of the Ellesmere BRT that's supposed to run from the Scarborough Civic Center out to Oshawa, right now, my understanding is the environmental assessment's been done or about to be done. It's not funded. Do you know what the city's doing to reach out to the provincial government to get money for the project, or is that something at the political level that we need to look at?
It through you to you, it's a provincial project. It is a Metrolinx project. Advocacy in getting transit built is always important, as potentially decades of advocacy have led to the shovels and the tunneling and the cranes that we see now along the McCowan extension of Line 2. There is currently no projected funding by Metrolinx, but it is the environmental assessment to a detailed level is quite finished, and we are treating it from a development review perspective as if it is there. So we're securing lands and adjusting planning frameworks accordingly.
Okay, all right, thank you. Those are all the questions. Speakers on this item? Councillor Canavale?
Thank you to staff for this illuminating presentation and for taking my questions. Much appreciated. This is tremendous work with far-reaching implications and consequences to Scarborough, especially being at the heart of our region. I think there's tremendous opportunity as well as areas we can see opportunities for complete community, and that's something that interests me, especially in light of the work that's being done in other parts, other regions, centers in our city when it comes to economic development, employment preservation, but also, and I didn't have time to get into my questions, but also the need for really vibrant public space, public realm. Councillor Myers and I, with other councillors, were in Taipei and really saw how well public realm, public spaces were crafted. And that's something I know we have the Albert Campbell Square, but with such intensification and growth, I think that's incredibly important alongside the work with the green loops and the cycling infrastructures. We need public realms to be addressed. The other part, which I didn't get to ask, so it may be answered in this plan, but is the need for greater clarity on the vibrancy for this secondary plan. So looking beyond just the mall, what are the requirements and expectations for commercial GFA for these projects? How do we make the base of these towers lively, whether it's music venues, culture, arts, and that's something I'm hoping to find time to dive into this to see how and to what extent do we address and mandate cultural vibrancy in urban planning. So that's, I know, an issue not just for myself, but many people who do care about our home here in Scarborough is how are we ensuring they're complete beyond just work, but also play, as was referenced, and what does that mean from a highly diverse cultural makeup in Scarborough? How does that look like? And I think there's room for a lot of creativity in this space. Sometimes I've noticed a year and a half in is that there are straitjackets that we wear in planning, and some of our own making, some from provincial legislation. But how do we think outside of that to ensure there's creativity brought to these places and spaces, which I think are ultimately in the interests of the developer, that they want highly engaging, culturally vibrant spaces that'll attract clientele. So I think it's a win-win for everyone, but how do we do it in a way that's that does incite creativity and vibrancy. So that's another comment I wanted to make is how do we mandate and implicate these employment and cultural considerations when it comes to big master plan projects such as this, and also recognizing this is an evolving document. It's a living document. Things change, demographics change, and will, of course, inform how these 5 major players envision this land. I think, finally, this is great work and important work, and central to that is community engagement. I know I've had members of the public, again, because this is not just, impacts the entirety of Scarborough, entirety of our city, and how we include voices to ask questions and be part of the visioning, part of the master plan is incumbent on us as councillors and as a city to ensure those communications and relationships are cultivated with many existing partners, whether they're residents associations, economic community groups, commercial players, and big employers. So I think that's the premise of great city planning, master plan building in this context, because we, of course, are seeing such changes within our regeneration areas to build perhaps a connection, an example to what is going on in my ward. So I wanted to close with appreciating this and looking forward to sharing that presentation with community and resident groups across Scarborough to ensure there's greater knowledge of this important work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cannavale. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Ms. Dines, Ms. Terry, Mr. Ventresca, and team for outstanding work. If you know, you don't, you know. If you don't know, you just don't know. And quite frankly, we've had no secrets here in Scarborough Centre. We've been very, very open and publicly available to have everybody who is interested in understanding what's going on here. This has been going on for a very, very long time. So it's not a hidden secret. In fact, we're very proud of the work and the planning and the preparation that's been taking place here in Scarborough Centre, led by Ms. Dines and so on. I can't count the amount of hours we've spent with respect to public consultation and, interestingly enough, inviting anybody from any place to come and actually see what's going on. I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to inform our community as to what's actually going on. So they're very up to date what's happening here. The piazzas that we talk about, the cultural component that we talked about with respect to this community, we're not missing a beat. We are actually uninterested in actually having spaces that are on it, animated in this community. We're talking about our downtown. We're talking about the vibrancy that needs to exist in this space. As the guy who founded the largest festival in this community, which we just had last weekend, which is the Taste of Lawrence, I know about culture. I know about bringing people together, both in terms of looking at strategizing, strategically looking with respect to development and creating opportunities. We're not building a bedroom community. We're actually building master communities that will include jobs, opportunities for people just to be able to recreate, for our seniors to be able to have a place to live and enjoy the space and so on, for those who want to work here, for those who will actually live here and work somewhere else. We're looking at all those things. We've gone through the whole component part with respect to the Hands of God Park, the Frank Faubert Woodlot, what we've done, the transformation that's taking place. There is actually no secret here. We're actually working in collaboration with all of the residents who live here now and planning for all those who will come and live in this space. The fact of the matter is that our staff have spent so much time invested in this particular plan to ensure that this study, not only is it such that people understand what's actually going on, but also to provide their input. We've spent countless hours in this chamber and in the rotunda outside looking at what needs to be done here. There's nothing at lost here. However, we can always improve. In fact, just last week, we had meetings with Atlantic, and as Ms. Dines has indicated, preparation is being made to talk more with Mondelez, who have lawyers, have planners, have everybody who's actually interested in their well-being, who have not come forward with any dissension with respect to what we actually have on the table going forward. When that plan comes forward in the fall, it will be a comprehensive, conclusive plan that will have all of the different things that will be needed long after I'm gone, pretty long after all of us are gone, quite frankly, because what we're doing today, we're actually building for the future when we won't be here. But it's a foundational document that's going to help us. This particular plan and what's happening here now, whether or not it's 1680, 1700 rental unit, 50 Borough Drive, the number of rental units that are coming on stream. It is my view and my submission that this would not be happening now if it was not for the expansion of the Bloor-Danforth subway line. And we know this, Ms. Dines, because you recall many years ago, many of the developers said, well, when are you building transit here? In fact, when Rob Ford was the mayor, the late Rob Ford, those were some of the conversations that were taking place. We need to build transit here. And some people said, well, just build light rail, that's sufficient. And the landowner said no. And thank you to the current Premier, Premier Ford, and his intention, we've gone from a one-stop subway to the 3 expanded to be able to connect to Malvern and all the other areas and so on. So there's a lot of planning going on. Nick, the work that you're doing with respect to Sheppard, that focus is going to be connected and so on. And so I thank you very much for this. I will move, this item is here to be received, I guess, Mr. Chair, in terms of the plan. I'll move the item, the recommendations that are here, and I want to thank the staff profusely for the outstanding professionalism in your work. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. We can move it together if you want.
That's right, Mr.
And I'm
Chair. We
only
will
saying
hold
that
hands and
because
move it together.
I share this area with Councillor Thompson. He's on the west side of McCowan, and I'm on the east side of McCowan. You know, a lot of work has been done on this. I want to thank Kelly in particular for all the work and direction and advice and all of her team. I can't say much more than Councillor Thompson did. I'd just be repeating what Councillor Thompson did, but I've been very excited about all of the work that's been done in this area, the tremendous amount of outreach that we've done, as Councillor Thompson said, in both of our communities to make sure our residents are engaged, businesses are engaged, community associations, making sure we have the amenities that we need. For example, I sit on the Toronto Public Library Board. You know, we worked with them and our planning staff around an appropriate place for the Toronto Public Library branch. The library staff having the vision and looking at what was going to be in this community, in and around, and how big a library branch had to be, working with the TTC, working, you know, poking and prodding both the public school board and the Catholic school boards to make sure the schools were in the area. Ultimately, as Councillor Thompson was saying, getting a planned community, a community that works for everybody. So I'm very happy with where we are, and I'm looking forward to seeing this continuing to be built and ongoing and changed and revised, but I think we're on an excellent path forward. Thank you. All right. And Councillor Thompson and I are moving the recommendations together. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. We're now going to go back to item number 1, SC 24.1, 4610. Finch Avenue East zoning bylaw amendment application. This is the decision report for final approval. We have 3 registered speakers. The first one is Sandra Mills from the Rising Sun Food Drive Foundation. If you want to come down, Ms. Mills. Then we have Brandon Simon from the Planning Partnership. And then finally, Liban Gramalika from Taibu Community Health Center. Sorry? Liban? Thank you. My apologies, Liban.
Good morning. Just
And you have 5 minutes, sorry, for each of the deputants, just a quick reminder, you have 5 minutes to make a presentation. Each city councillor can ask you questions for up to 5 minutes. Then we bring it back into committee where we can each ask staff questions for this item for up to 5 minutes each. And then we can speak on this item for each councillor for up to 5 minutes each. But
Sure.
Sandra, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
just before you start the time, I just wanted to, for a point of note, just clarification. I'm not here speaking on behalf of Rising Sun Food Drive Foundation. I'm just as a private citizen. So I did want the record, the public record, to show that.
Okay.
So if that can be done by your staff.
We'll have that noted in the minutes.
Wonderful, thank you
Okay.
so much. Good morning. I'd like to thank the Scarborough Community Council for the opportunity to speak, and in particular, Jenny Thomas and Councillor Jamal Myers for their support in helping me navigate the city's portal. The intersection of Brimley and Finch is the closest major intersection to my home, and I'm very pleased that a City of Toronto-run long-term care facility will replace the former police training academy. I would like the council to consider dedicating a wing or possibly a floor of this new LTC to focusing on the needs of Black, Caribbean, and African residents. According to the 2024 edition of the Community Council Area Profile, Black residents make up 11.3% of Scarborough's population. Our new Scarborough LTC is slated to have 378 beds contained in 13 stories. This is a bit larger than Kipling Acres with its 338 beds. Kipling Acres is where my West End aunt who has dementia currently resides. 11% of 378 is 42 beds, rounded to the nearest whole number. In this regard, it appears that 42 beds could constitute a wing, possibly a floor. As those of us in Scarborough know, Taibu Community Health Center is a success story of meeting community needs. I think of one friend who is a junior senior, over 65, younger than 80, whose elderly family doctor is still not taking in-person appointments post-COVID. Through Taibu, she has been able to access a chiropractor and other medical services, which have greatly improved her quality of life. Taking a page from Taibu's playbook, I think a wing or floor dedicated to meeting the needs of Black, Caribbean, and African residents from a culturally appropriate mandate would have a similarly positive impact on the quality of life of these Scarborough residents in their final chapter of life, and would be a concrete example of the city's commitment to anti-Black racism. So how would that look? I would suggest consulting with Taibu, Tropicana, JCAN, which stands for Joint Coalition Addressing Needs, formerly the Jamaican Canadian Association of Nurses, and also consider asking City of Toronto staff who work in city-run LTCs, many of whom belong to Black, Caribbean, and African communities. But some ideas that come to my mind are hiring dietitians and cooks who know how to prepare and therefore include meal and snack options, such as cornmeal porridge, Jamaican beef patties, sorrel drink at Christmas, and bun and cheese at Easter. Music engagement sessions could include classic reggae, ska, soca, Ghanaian, and Nigerian hits from the residents back in the day. The dementia-friendly decor, which promotes wayfinding and stimulation, could have its doors painted like foliage, typically found in a Caribbean setting. And as residents in the latter stages of dementia begin to lose vocabulary, hiring staff who not only understand the various Caribbean and African accents, but also know the difference between Ghana and Guyana, would go a very long way to making these Scarborough residents feel at home in their new home. Once the difficult decision is made to have your loved one relocate to a long-term care facility, genuine impactful efforts made to help them transition to a welcoming space is a good use of taxpayer dollars. Thank you for your time and consideration of my proposal that a wing or possibly a floor of this new LTC be dedicated to meeting the culturally specific needs of Black, Caribbean, and African residents.
Thank you, Sandra. Questions of the deputant? Councillor Myers?
Thank you, Chair, through you. First, excellent deputation. Thank you for coming and being here today. So just, you're an active member of the community. What are some of the needs you've seen for seniors in general, and I guess Black, Caribbean, African seniors in particular, as you're involved in a lot of organizations in Scarborough?
Well, from a personal perspective, I know, like one of the entities that I cited was JCAN, and one of the things that JCAN has done is over the past year and a half has created in partnership with my church, Place of Praise and Cultural Center, a social connect for seniors. And so every Tuesday, we are at Malvern Community Center, doing a Tuesday program from 11 to 2 that has all kinds, we pack a lot in there. That's where I'm going to next after this. And basically, it starts off with exercise, which is resistance bands, then it's dancing to, again, the tunes that were popular. A lot of folks left Jamaica or Trinidad or wherever, went to England, so they have all their music from their time as youth. And we dance, and they have a great time. And then we have like games, and then we eat, and all of that we pack in 3 hours. And my point of saying all of that is that we did not realize that how much of a need there was in the community for social engagement. I mean, we know it theoretically, but it's not until you offer something, and if you get it right, and then you get a response. When we started, it was 8 people. Within a year, it grew consistently to 80 people attending, and we needed to move location. We started at my church, which is small. That's why we needed to go to Malvern, because that room can hold like 150 people. And so we have that. On Fridays, we do another program, Arise and Shine and Dine. So my point is that there's a lot of need for engagement, and having it culturally appropriate is important, because one overriding comment people made is why they love coming to the program is because they don't feel judged. So it's interesting that people are thinking about, I don't know what kind of workplaces they came from, but if that's what they're saying is that they're coming into a place where they feel welcome, safe, and not judged, well, then that's great. So, yeah.
Thank you. And just I'm sure you know, but part of the proposal also includes space for adult seniors day programming. So I'm assuming this is space that potentially JCAN or others, agencies serving seniors, whether they're Caribbean, African, Black, or other members of the community, would also welcome as well.
Absolutely. That would be it would be great to be able to have different places to be able to operate our program, because yes, so that would be wonderful it's not just going to be a fortress, but it will be, community members will have the opportunity to make use of that space. So that's great in terms of the design and the vision.
And final question, you had mentioned your aunt who is in Kipling Acres, and that's in Etobicoke. What do you think it would do if we could have, Black, Caribbean, African seniors closer to home? Because as you correctly cited, Scarborough has a significant Black population, 1 in 10 residents. I think in Scarborough North it's 8.5%, which is the highest of every riding in the city of Toronto in terms of the number of residents who identify as Black, Caribbean, or African.
So having like a long-term care facility closer to home, right off the bat, as family members, we're able to visit more frequently, be able to, just again, have those extra pair of hands to support. What I noticed with my aunt, that a lot of her friends, of course, are of her vintage, right? And they have difficulty, if it wasn't where she was at another place before Kipling Acres, which was not as readily accessible by TTC, and so her friends, her age peers, couldn't visit. unless, one of us who at the time were working had to, get in a car and pick them up and all the rest of it. So having a facility here in Scarborough that, again, that location's perfect, Brimley and Finch, you've got 2 bus routes going through. It means that not just family members, but also community members. Like, for example, our church now, we do like a singing time at the nursing home at the long-term care facility on Conlins. I think it's extended care. We go in twice a month, and just do some singing, and the residents just love it. And so my point is that when having another place gives community members an opportunity to engage those seniors that maybe they're not seeing a lot of people because their friends are gone, literally gone, and family members may live far away. So it provides an opportunity for the community to fill that gap if it's in a place that, again, people can access. Working people have to work, but retired people have time to come out and, junior seniors can help seniors.
Yeah.
All right?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Thank you very much for your presentation, ma'am. So part of the issue is that there's a gap, a need that we need to respond to. And you're suggesting that here are some sort of short-term solution to a much longer-term problem.
Continue. You're saying a longer-term problem. Are you talking just generally philosophically like anti-Black racism, or do you mean specifically LTCs?
No, nothing about racism. Simply that there's a real need for more facilities for the constituency of Black and Caribbean and African who needs long-term care. I'm just simply asking,
Oh, I
this
see.
is a short-term opportunity for us to be able to engage, because you're not asking for the entire building, you're asking for space in the building. to
Yeah.
accommodate the need. But I'm just final point. I'm just asking you, do you see that there's a longer-term need for more space for people in this category?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I mean, I guess why I'm saying, a wing or a floor, I could easily, I'd be happy with a whole building, but it's just that I recognize that, like certain entities, like for example, right by where I live, we have Yihong, we have Montcheong. Montcheong has been around. I went to U of T downtown, and they were talking about the fundraising for Montcheong like 30 years ago, which is awesome. And just the community rallying, the various fundraising balls that they have, and all those great things that they do to get that done well ahead of any kind of the city doing it is great, but not every community can always mobilize that way or has the deep pockets that requires and whatnot. So I would, yes, absolutely having an entire building, but I guess you say, ask for what you think is reasonable and then take it from there. But yes, I do concur that being able to have something, this would be a short-term thing, and absolutely something long-term would be wonderful, just like how we have Taibu that's here to stay. Same, likewise, yeah.
So thank you. I was going to get to the Hihong and Mahjong and so on, but you've touched on it, which is great. So thank you very much for that. But Mahjong is the actual game. What I was simply asking and wanting to understand is that it would seem to me that there's a real need for an organization or an entity, and perhaps it's Taibu, and maybe that's a question for Liban when he comes up, that would actually be focusing on these types of needs in the community. So, for example, Dr. Joseph Wong and his team, they identify the need some 25, 30 years ago, and they build towards that. But in the community now, there isn't that structure. Do you think that there's a need for that structure?
Yes, I would say so. Yes, the short answer is yes. I think, the entity that I'm most familiar with is JCAN. I know that they've been existing now for 10 years, and I know that when they first started, their big goal was to build a long-term care facility. Yeah. And since they hired their executive director, Dr. Claudette Holloway, she's expanded the mandate to have, like I said, this weekly program for those seniors who don't need to be in long-term care, and hopefully with great programs like this will delay the time before they need that kind of care. So yes, a dedicated entity that's responsible and that's their focus, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Thank you, Sandra. The next
you.
deputant is Brandon Simon from the Planning Partnership.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of Community Council. My name is Brandon Simon. I'm a principal with the Planning Partnership. I'm joined by Tony Ross, a principal with Montgomery Sysom Architects. So we're the consultants who have been assisting Toronto Senior Services and Long-Term Care Division with this very important project and application. We don't want to take very much of your time, but we feel this is a very important project for the city, so we wanted to attend in person and just provide a very brief overview of the unique attributes and characteristics of this proposal, and of course, answer any questions that you might have. So I'll start off by saying, obviously, much noise has been made lately about the housing crisis that we're facing, and I think sometimes it goes a little bit less noticed now than it did even a few years ago, how acute that is when it comes to seniors housing and long-term care in particular. The city has endorsed and strived to achieve a very strong mandate for delivering city-developed, run, managed seniors housing, and this project is an important plank in achieving the city's ambitious goals of delivering new seniors housing that is urgently needed in the various communities across the city, and especially in this community, which is older and more diverse than the city as a whole. This project is a very unique and interesting partnership. Obviously, it's going to be developed, owned, and run by the Senior Services and Long-Term Care Division with approval from the province's Ministry of Long-Term Care. It will also include an adult day program, as Councillor Myers noted, which will be open to members of the community who don't need long-term care, permanent living accommodation, but could use some supportive services throughout the day. As well, there will be an EMS outpost that will better serve the community with more direct, proximate services, as well as office space for Toronto Paramedic Services to run their ongoing services as well. So very unique and interesting partnership with a number of different city divisions.
Thanks, Brandon. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to speak a little bit about the attributes. This is it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to lead a design project like this with such vision. We're pleased to be so heavily involved in the project. I think it's just for anyone that may not know some of the details about the project. It's a very the design for the new home is extremely progressive in its approach to resident care. It's really focused around the idea of the resident at the center of all things. So it's a switch in philosophy from institutional thinking to resident-centered thinking, and that's really fundamental. And I think what's really inspiring is that change has been ushered through a model of care that's been developed right here in Toronto called CareTO, which is a city-led initiative. And the design principles of this new building really follow the CareTO methodology. So it's great to see this edified in this new building. This home will follow a small home model. So its home area size will be much smaller than traditional long-term care homes, much smaller even than Kipling Acres that was mentioned earlier. And there's a real emphasis on residential scale, character, familiarity, really the continuation of normal life for residents that are going to live in this new facility. There's a focus on rich and active social spaces as part of the design and the creation of meaningful and safe outdoor spaces, really for the continuation of normal. The facility will use innovation to promote design thinking in the context of progressive environments for residents with dementia and cognitive decline. And as mentioned by several of the speakers already, the facility does have community-facing and supportive services. So it's more than a long-term care home. It's a community hub. It is a campus of care. And the building, of course, will be built in accordance with the latest standards in infection prevention and control, and will be extremely considerate to staff. The new facility will be 13 stories in height, 378 beds, with a mix of private and semi-private accommodation. And there's really been a focus on the creation of rich outdoor and indoor amenity space, recreational programming, social life, and that includes communal dining, all sorts of medical assessment and treatment space. There is this wonderful seniors day program space that we do find in many of the City of Toronto's long-term care homes. And then there's this great partnership with Toronto Paramedic Services for 3 different programs being delivered. So that's about amalgamating city service to be run very efficiently. On this, this building is going to be great for people, but it's also going to be great for our planet. This building will meet the Toronto Green Standard version 4 for city-owned and operated buildings, which means it's going to be a net zero building, which is wonderful, and it uses all kinds of principles to reduce the use of energy and lower carbon and reduce water consumption, reduce energy consumption, and it's going to achieve the Canadian Green Building Council certification for zero carbon. Just to summarize the key benefits, much needed long-term care beds with supportive community amenities and services and meaningful outdoor spaces. The implementation of a social model of care, a resident-centered focus to care, following Care TO. And, contextually appropriate redevelopment of an underutilized site. So we think it's a win and a beautiful project. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Questions of the deputants? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I'm just wondering if you could just go into a bit more detail about some of the design changes you've made to make this from more of an institutional setting to more of a patient care setting.
Yeah, so for us, it's really around ensuring that every decision is that we understand operations in the creation of the home, but we don't let operations trump the experience of the most important thing, which is the resident around which this new building is being built. So it's a shift to move away from operations as the most important thing to a more balanced approach where operations and resident care is handled in a more balanced way. And really during design, what it means is that we consider every choice in the building to be made in the context of, is that a good choice to promote familiarity, normal residential scale decision? Does it feel residential? Does it, if we choose the size of the home area, do we choose something that feels residential in scale, or do we feel something that is, feels more institutional in scale? We have the choice in 1,000 different decisions to always choose the thing that pushes the project toward being more residential scale and character.
Thank you. And can you just briefly just go into some of the thinking of how you think this will fit into the existing community? So on one side you have Brimley Forest, on the next you have Royal Crown Academy, on the next you have a gas station, and across the street you have low-rise residential homes.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor. Yeah, it's a very interesting area. It's kind of an institutional hub as far as we can see it. Several high schools, obviously the fire department to the north, the private school to the east, along 2 important arterial roads with public transit service, and with hopefully some enhanced public transit service coming along Finch Avenue at some point in the near future. And of course, just a little bit further east, you have kind of the community hub around McCowan. So it's an area that has an interesting mix of different uses and different built forms, including some taller apartment forms along Finch. We've obviously, as part of this process, studied the design, potential impacts in terms of shadowing and other things like that, and really come up with a design that we think optimizes the site in a contextually appropriate and sensitive way. And that's important here because to deliver the high quality and level of service that Tony spoke to, you need to make sure that it's done in an efficient way that the city can run and operate efficiently for the long term. And so we've really put a lot of thought behind the massing of the building in order to accommodate this really intentful interior design to make it feel more resident focused, and also the site layout that can accommodate that, but can also accommodate the different partner programs such as the adult day program and the paramedic depot. So we're very thrilled with how this came out, and very much appreciate working with staff as well to move this forward, address some technical comments along the way, and glad to be here.
Thank you very much. And
Councillor, just wanted additional comment that might help clarify too the significance of the two major streets. We've really made an attempt to bring a lot of the active programming to those two major street frontages and to the lower 2 stories of the building. And so if you look at the plans for the building, you'll see that, you know, the big social spaces, the big rooms, the day programming for active seniors, all of that stuff fronts the street. So we're hopeful that that's really going to activate and animate the street frontage in a way that it just currently is not. So it's really part of the excitement that's being brought to view and to bear on the street face, which we think is pretty exciting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of the deputants? Seeing none. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And the next deputant is Lieben Gramaikal of Taibu Community Health Center. Morning, sir. You have 5 minutes when you're ready.
Thank you, Councillor. My name is Liban Gabra-Mikhail from Taibu Community Health Center. I'm grateful for this opportunity. When you're the last speaker, it's a disadvantage and an advantage. The advantage is you can fill gaps if people have not mentioned a few things. The disadvantage is people may have said what you've prepared to say, but I think it will be a reinforcement. So, you know, referring to what Councillor Michael was saying, this is, at least from Taibu's perspective and my perspective, this is the first step towards a bigger objective that we would like to see, which is the, you know, dedicated center for Black, Caribbean, and African descent seniors to have a dedicated space just like any other communities, both in Scarborough and also in other parts of the city. The other kind of framework and presentation for me is that this is an equity submission. It is an equity issue, knowing that there are inequities that Black, Caribbean, and people of African descent are facing in terms of health outcomes, access to services. And so this is something that we are keen to support and advocate for, knowing Taibu has been established and has been working over the last few years to address these challenges and gaps. Culturally affirming care is very instrumental to the health and well-being of all communities, and particularly those who have been marginalized and racialized. And it's particularly much more important when we're talking about older adults and seniors, where at that stage, language and culture are become very significant in how people are receiving care and also for their health outcomes. We have examples of how this has been done in the past. We have Bendel Acres that has a dedicated space for Francophone population, knowing that people, when they are getting older and older, they seem to revert to engaging with their mother tongue. Culture is also as important. And I can share an example of a colleague whose father is in a very good established long-term care right now, but has been struggling because of the gap in culture. In the cultural activities and engagement. And this person has done a pilot study of how using university students to go and visit and do culturally appropriate and affirming activities, whether it's music, we heard earlier on from, from previous deputy, how those activities bring life to communities. And we have seen the changes that has taken place for her father. We are now expanding that study to go back to the community and see if this is something that we can scale up, because knowing that language and culture plays a significant role in people's well-being, particularly in a long-term care. So from Taibu's perspective, this is a great idea that we would like to support. Taibu as an organization is excited and keen to support and provide all necessary programs based on our signature program called Ubuntu Village Program that has engaged over 3,000 seniors in Scarborough by empowering them and providing the services from an empowerment model. whether it is co-location, whether it's bringing about services into the space. This is something that we are committed, but the idea of having a dedicated space for people of African, Caribbean, and Black communities is going to be significant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions to the deputant? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Nice to see you, Leuven.
Thank you.
Full disclosure, I used to be a board member of Taibu for 3 years, and I am currently still a patient. So I guess my first question is, do you have any statistics on sort of the discrepancies and outcomes for Black seniors versus you said there was a need, just based on the culturally affirming care, and I've seen this in my own activities working with Yihong, and just seeing the outcomes they're able to have for Chinese seniors in particular, but they also service Japanese seniors, Filipino seniors, and they're just able to provide that very specific type of care that really goes a long way to providing a healthy and longer stay for their residents. So what are the gaps that you've sort of seen in the current system that you think could be fulfilled if we were to dedicate some space to African, Black, and Caribbean seniors?
So data is very, very difficult because we don't collect race-based data, so it's very difficult to quantify. But we know from experience, from the community engagement that we have, I think the first gap is access to those kind of services. A lot of families are not keen or positive, to access those services because they already know that there's a cultural challenge as they enter those spaces. So having a dedicated space that caters for those kind of cultural needs is going to be able to allow for people to access those services. Just like we're talking about our Ubuntu village, like it's always a village that takes care of the village. That's how seniors have understood how to access services. So that dedicated space where it says, this is for you, this is by you, and this is with you, would increase the engagement and access of Black, Caribbean, and African descent seniors. I think that's the first one. The second one, we know, again, from anecdotal studies that have been done, that after accessing services, if the service does not meet the cultural needs and identity needs of people, there is no positive outcome. Either people would disengage or it will create more challenges for people. That's what we've seen at Taibu when people are coming to access services that is culturally appropriate and affirming for them. We have better outcomes. We have better engagement from the seniors around programming, but also in primary care. That is what it is. So people will need to identify with the service to say, this is the service I trust, this is the service that makes sense to me, and this will meet my needs. In all our client satisfaction surveys that we've done at Taibu, the highest percentage, over 90% of people say that this has met their cultural and identity needs, because when they come in, they are receiving services that is representative of their need, whether it is how the program is set up, their involvement and participation. So this is what I think can be transferred into making the space a space that will welcome, but also affirm the identity of seniors of African and Caribbean descent.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions of the deputant? Seeing none. Councillor Thompson?
Thanks. Thank you very much for your presentation, Leben, and so delighted that you're part of this initiative, because whenever you're a part of something, it's all about excellence and it succeeds. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Just wanted to turn my attention to, and I realize we're talking a little bit foundation and structure first and foremost and so on. Just want to take it a little bit further. I have an organization, actually a company in my ward, and they have been here now for about a couple of years, and I didn't really know that much about them until recently. But what they do is that they prepare culturally specific foods for these institutions, for people who are Black and African and so on. I'm just wondering, taking it to that level, this is part of the conversation, part of the structural equity, as well as sort of culturally sensitive sort of perspective and characteristics that you're looking at implementing as it relates to the fixed structure itself in terms of the units and welcoming people. Is that the focus?
100%. When we're talking about culture, there's language, there's different activities that can, but food is the center, like food is what, culturally what makes people engage with, right? I mean, we see that all the time. And so culturally, appropriate food is also should be part of the whole package of how people, like, when they're there, they identify with what they eat, who they associate with, who is part of the staff team. I think that's also something that will be very important in terms of representation, and what they do as residents of that space. So I think from our perspective, food is going to be central, and having that kind of a supply or provision of cultural food should be part of a system that we want to create.
Right. So I'm going to be preemptive in asking you this question.
Yes.
Because in as much as we're having this conversation, I'm sure at some point today I'll get an email in my office that says, you're just trying to help black people at the expense of everybody else. And why do black people actually need this specific, if you will, entity, interest, or benefit? I ask you that question because, as interesting as it is, I'm sure I'll get one of those emails today. So this is not to suggest that black people are getting an advantage. It is that there has long been a disadvantage, and we're trying to create equity. And this is not to suggest that black people are actually getting benefits that others don't get. I mean, I realize this is always a tough conversation,
Yes, yes.
but I ask you this question because later on in the day, I more likely will get an email that somebody says, hey, what are you guys doing for the black people? They don't need it. So there's a need.
100% there is a need, and this is the same question that was asked when Taibu was established. Why do we need a center that is dedicated to black people? We had to provide the information. The statistics speaks for themselves. However little we have in terms of the inequities, the disadvantages, the marginalization, right? We can look at service utilization right now in long-term care. Compared to our population, it's not close, all right? We can look at different health outcomes for seniors around dementia, for example. The black communities and people of African and Caribbean descent are experiencing an earlier onset of dementia compared to other racialized communities, let alone the host community. So there are those barriers that we know of. And part of the work that JCAN is doing in terms of, providing services to prevent those, the work that we do with our Ubuntu Village project with our seniors is also to do that, to prevent that. But there is also the restoration component that we already know that a lot of seniors are experiencing this. We don't know because we haven't collected the data or studied that, but in the community, we know this is happening. We know that black communities are hesitant to access long-term care because they don't trust the system and the institutions, or they know that if they go there, there's going to be a huge gap in how they will be serviced. That's why dedicated service for racialized communities such as the black community is important. And the good example and evidence is how Taibu is operating. The other thing that we also say to communities when such questions ask, because I said I'm presenting this as an equity question, is there is a concept known as targeted universalism. Mm-hmm. Targeted universalism says that if we are able to address the challenges that the most vulnerable and marginalized communities are facing, we will be solving the problem of the whole society.
Right. And just a final thing, some will say, why is it important to be black-led or led by culturally sensitive residents? What is your response? Because others will say, we have the service and we'll provide the same service, although I know that not to be true.
Yes, exactly.
So can you maybe just speak to that, please?
Oh, yes, 100%. And we see this in all aspects of equity issues, is that representation is going to be very important. Who is, leading this conversation is going to be important. Who is going to be at the table is going to be very important, and who's delivering the service is going to be very important. It's not just optics, but it is integral to how we are addressing equity issues. We cannot address equity issues of marginalized population without the marginalized population at the table, guiding, leading, and also providing the services. And when we do that, there is better engagement, there is trust that is being built, and outcomes usually show a positive outcome when it is led by the community themselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Speakers on this item, Councillor Myers.
I'd like to ask questions of staff, please.
Oh, sorry, missed that part. Questions of staff, Councillor
Yes.
Myers.
I'd like to ask Nicole a few questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, and any other staff can jump in today. So just within the City of Toronto's current long-term care homes, are there programs dedicated to specific communities or needs or gaps that have been identified in the population as a whole? I think we talked about Bendale has a specific wing or is dedicated to francophones to provide that type of care.
Yes, and thank you for that question. We do offer a variety of different programs that will meet the needs of the residents that are in our homes. And we often do that through programming of our staff, recreation programming, having cultural foods available and integrated into the overall menu planning, as well as a really robust volunteer system that brings in different volunteers and communities to offer some of the cultural programming as well if we don't have the staff available from those particular communities. Bendale is a particular program that is supported by the ministry. It's a cultural pilot program, so it's for French, and that continues to be a pilot, so we'll see how that goes, but we have really great results, and I think Liban spoke very nicely about that and the results that we're seeing within those communities.
Thank you. And are you familiar with other LTC cultural providers such as Moshong or Yihong and sort of like the care that they're able to provide to their residents versus a general long-term care setting?
Yes, I am familiar.
Can you just elaborate on that a bit?
So I'm going to put it out there, Councillor Myers. I'm newer to long-term care, but I am familiar with some of the cultural programs that they offer there. And what we've seen in situation, particularly with the aging population experiencing more dementia, when we can offer a comfortable environment for the residents where it's familiar, if they're using their home language more often, and they're remembering some of the things from their childhood and growing up, it reduces the reactive behaviors we'll see. So it offers a sense of comfort, decreased fear, and we know that it's very important. The cultural foods, Liban said it very nicely as well, is so important. We know that people and food is important for social connection as well as nourishment. So it is very important, and we see a lot of success in those types of programs.
Thank you. And final question, just to shift gears a bit. One of the other exciting parts of the project is there's a community benefits aspect to it in terms of making sure that there are some jobs locally created in the construction. Can you just talk about that a bit?
Sorry, Councillor, you're straying away from the item at hand. It's a zoning bylaw amendment.
Right, but we're talking about building the long-term care home.
We're talking about a zoning bylaw amendment, Councillor, so if you can try and
Okay.
keep to the topic at hand, please.
Sure, no problem. Do you think that Taibu would be an appropriate community partner for the type of initiative that we've been discussing here in terms of providing culturally appropriate care for Black Caribbean and African seniors? And also, can you just confirm that although some space might be dedicated to those communities, the rest of the building will be open to everybody?
So yes to question one. Taboo is an excellent partner that we will work with as we plan to offer care to this community. They have a long history of working in this community and providing this care. And we have a long history as the City of Toronto of partnering with them to offer care, in this community and meet the particular needs. Sorry, I forgot the second part of your question, Councillor.
That although some of the space might be dedicated to a certain
Yes,
population, the rest of the space would be open for everyone.
Yes, you're 100% correct.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none. Speakers, Councillor Myers.
Thank you. Can you restart my time? Thank you. So I just want to thank Levin, Sandra, Nicole for being here today. I think this has been a great discussion, and of course the architects who've put together a really thoughtful proposal on how this long-term care facility will integrate into the community. I think this has been a really enriching discussion, just talking about some of the needs that we've all seen in the community, in the work that we've been doing in the community in our various capacities, and that there would be a real, this would be a real welcome addition to the healthcare ecosystem that we've been developing in Scarborough that is very multicultural, that serves different communities, that recognizes there are differences within communities, and tries to provide equitable outcomes for residents. You know, one of the joys of being on the board of Taibu Community Health Center has just been seeing that work up close and personal. Back when I was a board member, seeing that work up close and personal, particularly during the pandemic, when Taibu was really playing a leading role in convincing many Black residents who were very skeptical of vaccines, about the vaccine efficacy, about the safety, about the history of vaccines, about how they could interact with their current medicine regime. So I think this type of care setting is very, very needed and welcomed. Scarborough has a strong Black population going back decades, very proud, very active. And I think this type of facility that could provide care for our loved ones or seniors closer to home would be much welcomed in the community. I'm very, very happy to continue working with staff on this to make sure that when this item goes forward to council, that we give clear direction that this is where the City of Toronto wants to go for our seniors and our commitment to the larger goal of just keeping families together in Scarborough, making sure that families don't have to go to Etobicoke, go to North York. Not that there's anything wrong with Etobicoke or North York, but like having people close so that they can keep those community relations going. So thank you very much to the staff. And yeah, and I will move the recommendations of the report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. Other speakers on this item? Sorry? You just want to vote? Okay.
We can have a recorded item.
We're voting on the recommendations as moved by Councillor Myers. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, our next item is number 3, SC 24.3, Kennedy Station Public Realm Master Plan Final Report in Ward 20 and 21. And Councillor Thompson asked for a presentation from staff on this, which staff are about to get together. Councillor Myers, while we're waiting, we held all of your items. Like, did you want to see if there's any that you wanted to move quickly?
You're good wherever you want, yeah.
Okay. Okay, is that fine with everybody? Okay. So why don't we deal with SC 24.4, renaming Rosebank Park in memory of Councillor Cynthia Lai. All in favor? And that carries unanimously.
Sorry.
Yes. Oh, sorry, you want a recorded vote? Yes.
All those in favor of the item, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Myers, Councillor Candavel, Councillor Mantis, Councillor Ainsley, that item carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. We held SC 24.6, Sheppard Avenue East and Brownspring Road Traffic Control Signal. You got questions on that? Okay. And then, SC 24.12, Brimwood Boulevard Parking Amendments. Okay, say something briefly.
Yes. Just want to thank the principal at Our Lady of Grace, Sean Samler, and the parent council president, Sharon Severin LeBlanc, for bringing this issue to my attention and for working with the city staff. This has been part of the larger project that we've been undertaking together as a community in order to make Brimwood Boulevard safe for residents. As everyone knows, there was unfortunately a death of a student from Agincourt Collegiate Institute earlier this year, and both the Brimwood Junior Public School School Administration and the Our Lady of Grace Catholic School Administration have been working with my office and with city officials in order to make Brimwood Boulevard safer for residents, and this is one of the safer for the students, sorry, and this was one of the areas identified in terms of getting rid of some outdated signage, which was confusing, and providing more spacing for parking so that we're not creating so many blind spots along Brimwood Boulevard. So yes, very grateful to see this and to see this done very quickly. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Myers, and I'm sure your residents appreciate all the work on this, and students in particular, and their parents. So all in favor of the recommendations in number 12? That carries unanimously. Did you want to deal with number 6 now, or? Yes. Sheppard Avenue East and Brownspring Road. Traffic control? Sorry? I think they're still prepping. So we'll deal with number 6 now. It's SC 24.6, Sheppard Avenue East and Brownspring Road Traffic Control Signal. Questions of staff? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So I read the report, and I did note that there was no mention of the Seventh-day Adventist Toronto East Church that's also in the area. Was there any discussions with that church about the need for this crosswalk? Or were there any observations seeing the parishioners coming about the need for this crosswalk?
No, through the chair, no direct discussions with the church, but the church is part of the land use in the area that contributes to the need for the crosswalk.
Okay,
and suspect would benefit from it.
Are houses of worship generally considered in these types of reports? I just found it's a big church, and there's a lot of seniors, so I just found it a bit strange that there was no mention of the church, and it's like right there.
They are considered at times, might be a motivation for looking at a particular location. As you know, this one was a sort of a proactive review, but yes, in general, yes.
Okay, and has there been accidents observed along this particular stretch of Sheppard Avenue East?
There have been instances of collisions and serious injuries.
Do you have the statistics for 2024?
Just a moment. There have been 2 instances involving turning vehicles, resulting in no injuries, and 1 involving a cyclist, resulting in injury.
Thank you. And in your observations, can you just give a sort of high-level overview of the number of mid-block crossings that you observed in terms of people getting off the bus and then trying to run across the street because they didn't want to go to McCowan or they didn't want to go to Brimley for the crosswalk?
Just pulling that up, Councillor.
Yep.
During the 8-hour period, we observed 11 people attempting the crossing, but I'll also add that we know at many of these instances of crossing major arterials, the existing number of crossings is not representative of the demand that exists because it's a generally unsafe location to cross.
Thank you. And finally, just briefly, this did not meet the strict compliance minimums in order to justify the installation of a traffic control signal. However, staff are recommending that the traffic control signal be installed nonetheless. Can you just sort of go over some of those qualitative factors that sway the decision this way?
Yes, of course. Through the chair, those examples include distances to the nearest protected crossing, in this case, several hundred, land uses on either side, presence of a transit stop, which is what motivated us looking at this location in the first place. So mid-block transit stops where people are expected to get on and off and cross the street. High speeds, high volumes, and multiple lanes of traffic. Generally characteristics that lend themselves to risky environments if people do try to cross without protection.
Thank you. And final question, this time for real. When can residents expect to see the crosswalk installed?
Typically, it takes about a year to go through the design process and get ready for implementation. So I would say about a year, but we will be in touch with your office. Our colleagues will be in touch with your office as we get closer.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of staff on this item? Speakers, Councillor Myers?
Nothing. Very happy to see this go forward, and I'm very happy to move the report recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Myers is moving the recommendations on SC 24.6 Sheppard Avenue East and Brownspring Road Traffic Control Signal. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll go to our last item now. SC 24.3 Kennedy Station Public Realm Master Plan Final Report in wards 20 and 21, and we have a staff presentation. Whenever you're ready.
Christian, can I be made the presenter again?
There we go.
Hello, everyone. Apologies for the technical difficulties. My name is Dahab Ibrahim. I work in strategic initiatives and city planning, and I am a planner as a part of the team who worked on the Kennedy Station Public Realm Master Plan that we will be presenting today. So starting with background. The Kennedy Station area is a key transit hub serving a high volume of users. The Kennedy Station area is transforming and will no longer be a terminus station for Line 2 Lord Danforth subway with a single interchange connecting to the Kennedy GO station, and it will evolve into a transit hub with multiple interchanges between multiple transit lines. The area is expected to evolve with the introduction of additional transit infrastructure, which includes the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, the Eglinton East LRT, the Scarborough subway extension, and the Scarborough busway. With this increased transit options and service, boardings and alightings on Kennedy TTC and Kennedy GO stations are expected to grow on average from approximately 44,000 in 2024 to 82,000 by 2051. Beyond changes to commuting patterns, new transit infrastructure and services will influence local movement within streets and public spaces, create conditions that support increased development density, and drive greater demand for high-quality public realm improvements. To that effect, the master plan and associated study was initiated by city staff to guide decision-making and coordinate public realm improvements in the Kennedy Station area for over the next 30-plus years in response to that transit investment and development potential. And as you can see on the map to the right, the study area is depicted there, and it's bounded by Iron View Road to the west, Falmouth Avenue to the east, and the mixed-use areas to the north and south along Eglinton Avenue. In terms of study inputs, the master plan was not established in isolation. It has benefited from a wide range of inputs. Internally, it has included a review of existing directions for the study area. This has come from council endorsed documents, already ongoing initiatives, what's unknown about planned transit improvements, improved development, and an internal constraints analysis. As a part of this study, a technical advisory committee was also established, and that was made up internally of city divisions. So this included divisions like transportation services, transit expansion, parks and recreation, among others, but also external stakeholders that have key interests in the area. And this includes stakeholders like CRATO, Metrolinx, Hydro One, the Toronto Parking Authority. And through this technical advisory committee, there's been multiple points in the process where we've been able to brief them and update them on study progress, as well as have them had the opportunity to review the master plan in detail and provide comments. In terms of another layer of study inputs, specifically around community participation, our approach to community engagement was really focused on engaging people in already frequented spaces and within existing programs in the community, specifically looking to reduce barriers through both online and in-person engagement opportunities. So to that effect, we completed 9 in-person activities in existing community spaces. So this includes the Don Montgomery Community Recreation Center, the Kennedy Eglinton Library, the Kennedy TTC Station, the Mid-Scarborough Hub, and 2 local schools within the area, enabling us to reach a wide range of audiences, including youth and seniors. We also offer 2 online mediums for participation for community members that have identified attending in-person events as challenging or not feasible. In terms of outreach about these opportunities and activities, we sent about 15,000 pieces of mail within a 1 kilometer to addresses within a 1 kilometer radius of the study area. We also completed promotion through social media, as well as dissemination of opportunities through the networks of various community groups that operate in and around the study area. So what this resulted in terms of outcome is approximately 449 people engaged in person, as well as us receiving over 600 comments online. In terms of the engagement timeline, engagement on the master plan was multi-staged and it occurred over the course of the master plan process. Initial engagement on opportunities and challenges occurred in the fall of 2024, and engagement on the draft master plan occurred in the spring of 2025. Post-council adoption and as we move forward to implementation, we hope to continue and create additional opportunities for engagement on the detailed design of the public realm improvements contained within the plan. So moving on from process to content, specifically the master plan envisions the Kennedy Station public realm plan was developed to guide decision-making and coordinate public realm investments across development and transit projects over the next 30 years. The master plan will facilitate a cohesive, well-connected network of public spaces for everyone, so that includes residents, visitors, workers, and commuters, while improving mobility and connectivity, ensuring safety and comfort, promoting placemaking, and supporting sustainability and resilience. 10 strategic goals have been identified to realize the vision of the public realm master plan. So the master plan will create a well-connected street network, improve the pedestrian circulation network, support a safer and more connected cycling network, integrate vehicular access, strengthen the parks and open space system, expand the urban tree canopy and support green streets, improve the streetscapes, explore opportunities for Indigenous placekeeping, elevate public art, and create a comfortable public realm year-round. So these 10 goals are key components of the master plan that collectively establish the master plan as proposed. I think we froze 1 second. There we go. So as you can see here, this diagram demonstrates the rendered master plan, and this is what the area will look like upon the full build-out of the master plan and achievement of all 10 goals over the next 30 years. So the study area within the master plan is further broken down into 5 core areas, and each of these 5 core areas features specific area-specific design guidance, and that area-specific design guidance is illustrated through what you see on the right being conceptual design demonstrations. So although the plan covers a 30-year horizon, the public realm improvements are intended to be implemented incrementally over a series of phases. The timing of implementation is set to align with expected changes to travel patterns and through the completion of transit and development projects. So within phase 1, what's included is immediate actions that can be taken to improve the safety and physical connections for active mobility users, including pedestrians and cyclists. Phase 2 focuses on improving placemaking, improving access to key locations, providing new active mobility connections, and the opportunities unlocked through the completion of transit projects. Phase 3, sorry, and I should have mentioned the time frame. Sorry, phase 1 is what we're considering near term, focusing on the first 7 years. Phase 2 is considered midterm, looking at approximately 7 to 15 years after council adoption. And then phase 3 is looking at about 15 to 30 years post-council adoption, and phase 3 is really the full build-out of the area, kind of comprehensively bringing together all aspects of the master plan and achieving a well-connected and complete community. What we have also included is a future phase, so that is beyond 30 years, and this addresses additional public realm improvements that should be considered and studied to enhance safety, efficiency, and the overall user experience of the transit hub and the broader area. So moving towards implementation, within the master plan, we've included key considerations about how to move forward to ensure public realm improvements proceed in an efficient, coordinated, and thoughtful manner. So this includes coordination that is collaborative and strategic, understanding that there's multiple stakeholders in the area, continued and increased Indigenous and public engagement prior to any detailed design, assessment of current and changing conditions in the area and emerging opportunities, understanding that this is a 30-year timeframe that we're looking at. We want to be responsive to any upcoming and emerging needs. And then determining required studies to inform planning, design, funding, and decision-making matters. And lastly, identifying funding and partnerships to coordinate infrastructure investments that have been recommended as a part of the plan. Thank you. That concludes the presentation.
I was going to say, you don't have to go through the Not that we don't appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you very much. So questions of staff. I have this held by Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson, questions of staff?
Thank you. What have you not done as part of this master plan?
Sorry, through the chair, in terms of what is out of scope for this master plan, the master plan is focused on public realm improvements. So what is not covered is specifically around built form, traffic studies, community infrastructure studies, a parking study, and detailed implementation strategy.
So parking traffic studies not part of your public realm focus?
Not part of the vision. So
Pardon?
it's not a part of the vision, so the
Right.
current master plan.
So you're focusing on how residents and can traverse the area in a safe manner?
Correct.
Part of the work?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Sorry?
That is correct.
Okay. What have you not considered as it relates to those concerns? Nothing is fine.
Oh, okay.
Question.
Nothing that I'm aware. Nothing that I'm aware of.
Right, right. And just in terms of the consultation that you've taken place, and I know you've shown the slide and so on, but just can you just remind me again in terms of how many meetings you had and how many people kind of responded in order to help you to identify concerns?
Through the chair, in terms of additional detail on the amount of community engagement that was conducted, I can start with in-person engagement. We conducted a series of 9 activities. So we did 2 pop-ups at the Toronto Public Library, so the Kennedy Eglinton Library branch. We reached about 19 people through that. We conducted, in partnership with Parks and Recreation, an open house at the Scarborough hub. So that occurred in October, and we reached about 45 people through that. We also conducted 2 pop-ups in the Kennedy TTC station. So we were able to reach about 81 people through that. And then we also conducted 2 days of youth workshops at Winston Churchill Collegiate Institute and St. Joan of Arc Catholic Academy. Part of those youth workshops were really focused on kind of like the civic process and city building as a whole, as well as details on the Kennedy Station Public Realm Master Plan. But we were able to reach about 206 students through that. We also specifically did some community engagement in a drop-in program for seniors at the Don Montgomery Community Recreation Program, where we got to reach about 23 individuals. And lastly, for in-person activities, on the draft master plan, we conducted an open house on March 27th, and we reached about 75 people through that. That's in terms of in-person, and I can go through online.
No,
with the
you
counselor.
don't have to do that. You were telling me that the residents' voice were considered, lots of consultation processes, and
Yeah.
as part of the provincial master plan, the provincial, it's consistent with respect to provincial policies, right?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Francesco, I think you wanted to say something. I thought.
Through the chair, I'm certainly not the youngest person on the panel, but there was also an Instagram video posted recently with about 3,000 views as of Monday.
Okay. Thank you so much. Great. And so funding and so on will come through the varying different phases.
Correct.
Right. In terms of direction, and maybe this is for you, Mr. Brenfriska, in terms of direction, our direction is focusing on the master plan and what's actually in front of us. Is that the purpose of the report that's here?
Through the chair, that's correct. It will assist staff in reviewing and participating in various initiatives. There's a couple active development applications. We currently have a site plan application for 2444 Eglinton.
Right.
Public realm moves can be implemented through that. Staff are often parts of technical advisory committees for transit design. Eglinton East LRT will advance to 30% design in the near future. We can now bring, with adoption of the report, we can bring those opinions with the weight of council now behind them to those design exercises for various infrastructure pieces. And we really don't want to see the seams between infrastructure design and planning, private development, and public initiatives. And this plan helps to mend those seams with one cohesive vision for the entire area.
And just remind me again, so to the east, it goes to Ironview, and to the west.
The west,
Ironview.
yeah. It goes to
And the
Ironview,
east, it goes,
Falmouth Avenue.
sorry?
Falmouth Avenue?
Okay, got you. Okay, so it's very comprehensive. All right, super. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other questions of staff? Councillor Candaval.
Thank you for staff for bringing this forward. To pick up on a previous question on the scope of the master plan, our master plans, do they vary in the scope? I know this is a public realm master plan. Why was that selected as the scope?
What was the question? Why it was only public
Public
master
realm, yeah.
plan?
Yeah.
Yes, so generally, public realm master plan deals with things like connections and streetscapes and something that, lets people to move easily through the space, which seems to be a big challenge right now and is not being coordinated through various projects, both transit project and development applications. So the priority was to create that as a first step to help organize the space better and create a cohesive vision, and then move to the implementation and work on other aspects that would support the public realm master plan.
Okay, so do they vary when we look at transit station area master plans? Are they all public realm, and then do we do build form later, or does it vary?
Through the chair, it does vary. Take, for example, earlier this morning, we spoke to the Scarborough Center secondary plan. That is a master plan, if you will, and will be supported by urban design guidelines. Here, as again, speaking to the need for, I'll use the word urgency, the need to influence some of the in-flight matters related to both private development and transit infrastructure planning and design. This is certainly a quicker and more nimble process, while robust with its engagement, as my colleague Dahab went through in her presentation and her answers.
Okay, what I'm trying to understand is when would we expect the work in terms of built form and urban design guidelines?
Through the chair, this is largely an urban design guideline, so most of the public realm work would be guided by this document. From a built form perspective, there's a number of citywide guidelines that would influence development that we use, for example, on the 2444 zoning bylaw amendment application. And minimum densities are already provided for by the protected major transit station area, which generally provides for a minimum of 2 times coverage for the majority of the sites within the Kennedy PMTSA. Detailed built form guidance could be accomplished through the tall building guidelines, the mid-rise guidelines, creating a secondary plan study area or something like that is resource intensive, and generally can be, the outcomes can generally be provided through existing citywide documents.
Okay, so there's no intention to do a subsequent built form?
At the time, no. We don't.
Existing.
We would use existing guidance, both in the official plan policies as well as existing built form guidelines, depending on building type.
Okay. The other area that we've received concern from residents, and I know it came up last year as well, is the commuter parking lot. So for clarity for our public and residents, this document is not making the decision on the south commuter parking lot, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. I believe it was considered in May of 2025 by the TTC board. Governance related to future disposition of those lands is probably the TTC's first to make. And the plan provides flexibility. The master plan that's before us today, I should say, provides flexibility if a parking lot is to be put back when the bus terminal is
The decision
repurposed.
rests with the TDC, I think.
The decision rests with the
Clarity,
TTC,
yeah. 'Cause there was-
and the document today provides an either-or option where
Gotcha.
parking lot can be adequately designed for public realm purposes or redeveloped.
And in relation to the actual efficacy of this document, if we take the southwest corner of Kennedy and Eglinton, it's, for the most part, boarded up graffiti. How can this document, as its title suggests, Public Realm Master Plan, now be used as a tool for the public to see an improvement to that area of the scope?
Through the chair, so once the document is adopted, this will be a guide to use to implement all of the public realm areas around it, so such as a corner plaza, mid-block connections, sidewalks, cycling, lanes, etc.
But does it have
Last
the
question, Councillor.
Oh, I'll go second round, I guess.
Sorry, you're done? Well, I said that was your last question, so you've got one more.
I've got one more, okay. So how can this document with other existing city bylaws impact the public realm of that south? I'm sure you guys have visited the site. The southwest corner, for the most part, is boarded up, a lot of graffiti. This is not good public realm. How can we ensure that the fruits of this work are now ensuring we have good public realm?
Through the chair, Councillor, I'll take a stab at the question. I think we understand what you're going towards. So the existing condition is certainly subpar. It unfortunately seems to be a private landowner's decision to not maintain the property standards of the lands. So that's existing as a property standards question. As certain implementation matters are brought forward, anything in the public boulevard, should we find appropriate funding partners or capital improvement projects, things in front of the site would be guided by the document. If the site were to be redeveloped, the mid-block connections, the plaza that my colleague was referring to, would be secured through redevelopment with the adoption of the guidelines. The unfortunate fact that it is underutilized, somewhat derelict, is probably a property standards question and a property standards committee matter, more so than specifically governed by this document.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Other questions of staff? Councillor Myers?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So I think this is a really exciting plan. I think there's a lot of the good work that's gone into this. And I don't think most people realize, there will be GO Train, Eglinton Crosstown, particularly Eglinton East LRT, and Young Bloor Line 2. So this will be a major transit hub, not just in Scarborough, but like in the GTA, probably second after Union in terms of like just the number of lines that are coming in. So does the master plan consider how many people are going to be living there over the next 30 years, and how those people are going to sort of move, not just from a transit plan, but from a general mobility plan in terms of walking, cycling, biking, scooters, that kind of thing?
Through the chair, this is exactly why this is the time to bring the plan forward in advance of this intensification. But as was brought up in the presentation and the report, even the number of transit users that would potentially be coming to interchange, if they're taking a GO train, they may have 15 minutes to run out and grab a sandwich or something like that. And we'd like to have very clear and very safe places for non-auto trips to be circulating in the area. So this is exactly why it's the time is now before the infrastructure comes online.
Thank you. And so what is the relationship, what relationship will Metrolinx have in the master plan, as they're obviously a major stakeholder because they have Eglinton Crosstown and the GO train in terms of how this plan will develop eventually?
Through the chair, so Metrolinx was a part of our technical advisory committee and will continue being on as part of the implementation. We'll work closely with them on their schedule and will be part of their design progress to ensure that they meet the intent of the master plan.
Thank you very much. And sorry, one final question. I'm going to use just one more minute. I saw in the document that there was a lot of talk about Indigenous engagement, but I didn't see specific examples. So I'm just wondering if you could just elaborate on what types of Indigenous engagement have been done so far and what types will be done in the future.
Great. Specific Indigenous engagement will occur as a part, more so as a part of the implementation strategy when there's specific public realm opportunities or placekeeping opportunities to discuss with those communities. What we've heard, especially from like our Indigenous engagement consultant per se, I'm blanking on the exact title, but from these communities, there is a bit of stretch in terms of their capacity. And what they are kind of asking for us is to do the legwork and to do the due diligence to figure out what already exists in terms of like preferences or what can be learned from other Indigenous engagements that happened on other studies potentially that kind of apply to, especially on a citywide basis. Take that, and when there is specific opportunities, come back on those specifically to Indigenous communities. And that's what we plan to do as a part of the implementation strategy.
So they haven't been engaged yet, but they will be, and we're sort of taking lessons learned from previous master plans in terms of what we know and what we can apply here, and then we'll use that to build, we'll form the basis of future engagements.
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor Cannavale, you have two more questions?
Yes. Just for clarity, to inform the potential motion on requesting the TDC to staff, just wanted clarity, Christian, on whether the motion to request the TDC to consider the south commuter parking lot to return as a commuter parking lot as part of this document.
Sorry, what's the question, Councillor?
Would this motion impact, the reverse, the document impact the commuter parking lot? I think we was given clarity that it's a TDC matter. So what I'm looking to do in the potential motion is to request the TDC, which Councillor Myers, who's the chair, is supportive of in terms of the request.
Sorry,
So
Councillor.
that's the question I'm asking.
Sorry,
Is that
Sorry, Councillor, I'm going to hold your time.
Yeah.
So just on a point of clarity, so we don't have a motion before us, so you can't ask staff about a motion.
right?
And
Okay.
it's inappropriate to ask staff their opinion of whether a motion is valid or not. That's for the clerk and the chair to decide. And we
sorry,
don't
not-
have a
it's not
motion
about it's-
before us yet.
No, I guess the
So you
question
can't
is.
ask staff from the planning department.
Point
about
of
a
order, Mr.
hypothetical
Chair.
motion.
I'm not asking.
Point of order,
I'm
Mr. Chair.
asking if
Point of
this
order, Mr. Chair.
document.
Councillor Thompson, let me finish
Point
with
of order.
you first.
No, is this document impacting the use of the commuter parking lot?
Okay, but you asked about a motion that
Yeah,
you were
no, I
considering.
take that. That's what I was getting at. But what I'm looking for is clarity on whether this motion, the document is impacting the commuter
So
parking lot.
that's a decision by the clerk and the chair.
Okay.
Okay?
Point of order, Mr.
Councillor
Chair.
Thompson, you had a point of order?
With respect to what's in front of us in this document, is the parking issue, because I asked staff the question about parking. This document does not.
Correct.
envision or is focused on issues around parking,
Yep.
public realm.
Yep.
So I would ask you to rule such motion out of order.
He hasn't moved a motion yet.
Well, he says he's moving a motion. I'm saying
So
that.
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if there's a motion that, because there was a question asked of staff about a motion, which they don't have.
Yep,
But if there's
we'll
a
deal.
motion, I'd ask you to rule it out of order.
Yep, we'll deal with it when we get to it, if it's hypothetically.
Okay, as long as it's consensual.
Councillor
right?
Canavelle?
But no, it's I'm looking to do something consensually with Chair Myers, but that, I think, to your point, is something probably visited better through a member motion or through a motion from a colleague who sits on the Toronto Transit Commission. So I'll leave it at that. I guess the final question is, do public realm master plans provide the effective utility and teeth to ensure that private landowners adhere to public realm aesthetic and the implications that we're looking to derive from this?
Through the chair, I would say that they are a very effective part of our toolkit. The question of teeth, of course, comes to how ultimately they would be viewed through a litigation process before the tribunal, which I would hope we wouldn't get to. But they provide us with a council level endorsement of a vision for the area, as opposed to what could otherwise be seen as individual opinions of reviewers or staff. So we would then be taking the guidance of this document as thoroughly done and bringing it to these various tables, whether it's a development application, a Metrolinx design initiative, a transit expansion office design initiative, and know that we have the full adoption of a guideline from council to carry forward. And they can be quite successful in those forums.
Mm-hmm. And to that, and I appreciate that context and feedback, do you think there's value going forward that this work intersects with MLS bylaw and licensing as part of ensuring there's efficacy behind public realm master plans?
Through the chair, it's a difficult question to answer with certainty, if only that this is not a property standards bylaw.
Yeah.
So MLS would be, and I don't believe my colleagues are here today to speak directly, but MLS would be charged with enforcing property standards, which would be found through the municipal code.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does help us with is securing certain matters, be it through capital projects or private development, that would be secured through development agreements, and then we could enforce those development agreements through municipal licensing and standards.
Thank you. And finally, thank you for sharing the diversity of communication and engagement opportunities the team has done with the community. There are some groups that have expressed interest on this topic. So from now till council, can our office put them in touch with you to have, whether it's a virtual meeting or in-person meeting, to kind of address their concerns about this document until council?
Absolutely, of course, we'll be happy to chat with them.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Canavelle. Speakers on this item, Councillor Thompson, you held the item. Did you want to speak?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to the staff for the presentation. As you know, prior to you coming forward with the discussion with me and others about the work that you were going to embark on, we had lots and lots of questions from the public about the public realm, because we didn't have a plan, and they were very concerned about how they're going to be traversing the area, concerned about safety, impact, and so on. And I'm so happy that you've covered those things. You've had meetings with members of the public, and they have provided their input and so on, and you have listened intently. And I see that by the document here that you have done so, and the diagram, the sketching and so on that you have provided. I'm really delighted with respect to what you've done. And it demonstrates the willingness and the the effectiveness, quite frankly, of planning and just addressing issues as it relates to development. It isn't that we would simply implement and develop without looking at the public realm and looking at the impact and so on. And I'm really happy that you've done so. You've looked at, obviously, how to connect elements in the community and so on. You looked at sort of the circulation and improving the walkability and public access to Mr. Chair, sorry, just wonder if I can just, you've looked at the improvement and so on, which is really super important because we know this is a very busy area now. It's going to be even busier as we build out and so on. And it's really important in terms of looking at vehicle access and all the iteration that's actually going to occur, and also about, the trees, the whole canopy in the area, and what does that look like, and what is the impact and the opportunity. I'm particularly pleased too, though, about the Indigenous consideration that you've taken in as part of this report, because we know that's a big part of this area and throughout this city and so on, because of who lived here and whose land this is that we are actually living on, and doing all the great things that we do in collaboration and so on. So I think you've elevated, in my view, with this report, because I've seen enough public realm reviews and plans over the years, having been here for quite some time, to be able to see that you have finessed, fine-tuned, developed a level of excellence in a very calm and very patient way. And whatever is needed in terms of addition from the public with respect to input, I have no doubt that you'll be able to accommodate that if it's in the realm of the public realm work that you're actually doing. Mr. Francesco has been very clear. There's a lot of different elements of what we do in terms of build form and design and so on and so forth. This is not that document. This is a public realm document, and it will overlay with respect to elements within the context of the community, refining and designing and making things better, making things safer, making things actually more environmentally beneficial to the community as a whole. So on behalf of my community, on behalf of the people you have talked to, I want to simply say, through you, Mr. Chair, a big thank you to the staff and the leaders, because when we started, we weren't really clear, right? But because the questions were coming through. But now, you have a document that is not static, but a dynamic document that is going to address many of the issues that people had. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other speakers on this item? Councillor Candeval?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. The work here is considerable. It's ambitious. It's important, and that certainly deserves appreciation for the work. I know there's been opportunity for engagement through a variety of mediums. I know there are many who may not live in the immediate vicinity, but throughout Scarborough, to Councillor Myers' points, it's something that impacts the entirety of the region, and thus have interests coming from East Scarborough, North Scarborough, and certainly obviously South Scarborough, and much of this is appreciated. I think I grew up in this neighborhood, I know it inside out, and the aesthetic, the public realm is lacking. Certainly, it's in need, and hence the earlier questions of how we work with private landowners to improve this public realm is tremendously important. So the work before, I think, is clear, and part of it, I think, is the impacts from decisions from the TDC and the existing planning documents that will influence the built form around it. I know the community, through multiple engagements, starting with the Victoria Park Station commuter parking lot, the ongoing work with the Warden Station, it is a strong desire. And again, to reiterate, this document does not make the decision on the land use or the use of the commuter, or previously the commuter parking lot, which is home to the buses that are using the red lanes on Kennedy and Midland. But that is something that many communities across Scarborough have expressed to me. And I know last year with the north commuter parking lot closure, there was a motion brought by Community Council for further consideration by the TDC. So that's something incumbent on me to communicate to my colleagues and council that there is great concern from the greater Scarborough community to see that there is space retained for commuter access, because I think that's ultimately a public good. If people are taking the majority of their commuting journey through the TDC, having that opportunity to park is critical. And I know the TDC has done that with other sites across the city and intentionally retaining commuter parking. Secondly, the importance of incorporating, maintaining green space is considerable, and I think it's very important, especially as we're doing work west of Kennedy Station with the Golden Mile, and ensuring that this is, addresses perhaps some of the areas of concern that come out of, the Kennedy Iron View Parkland study, which I imagine was influenced or impacted this. There is a great deal, and we see that correlation of lack of green space in lower SCS communities, and it's incumbent on us to address that through policy, planning, and public realm documents that we set the context and the guidelines for. Thirdly, I think as part of how we do work and how we always seek to improve the quality of our work, that there has to be these creative conversations that intersect the teeth that come through bylaw, through municipal licensing standards, to ensure public realm, especially in areas that are described as NIA or lower SCS, are adhered to, because we do see discrepancy in our city. And this is a part of a bigger question, that certain neighborhoods, certain areas of the city are given a higher priority in terms of the public aesthetic, public realm. So that's something that is part of a bigger question. And I know council gave direction to our chief planner to make our city a more beautiful city, and as part of whether it's development review or city planning. So I think this needs to address that. Yes, resources are scarce, but should be made a priority. And with that, I'll close and appreciate the work given to that, and happy for the indication to engage with some other groups on this work. But I know it's very appreciated by the community on whole. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cannavale. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none, so we have the recommendations before us. Councillor Thompson, are you moving them? You held the item. All right. Recommendations moved by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Bills? Councillor Mantis? I heard you say bills first.
Bills 667 and 668 prepared for the July 8, 2025 meeting 24 of the Scarborough Community Council be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All in favor? That carries. Thank you, Councillor Mantis. And to your niece, I hope she enjoyed community council this morning and has a great soccer practice this afternoon. One more bill. Oh, nobody. Oh, Councillor Myers is standing up. He wants to move the bill. The next one. Councillor Myers, you have the floor.
That confirmatory bills to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Scarborough Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 24 on July 8, 2025 be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All in favor? That carries. Meeting adjourned. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much, everybody, and thanks to all the staff.